And we're back. You know what time it is. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the time to hear something good. And I am so blessed to have, the group of people that have decided to share their story. So I'm thrilled. Tell me something good today. I get to bring on my friend, Rob Katz. God, Rob and I go back years. Just incredible how long ago we met. We've shared great stories. We've shared failures, and I hope, Rob, that you're interested and hopeful about sharing those stories with the audience. So today is your chance to tell me something good.
Absolutely. And first of all, Steve, it's always great to catch up. When Steve and I first met, we both had a lot of hair, if that tells you.
That shows you, man.
He didn't want to say how many years it was, but my something good is I'm an eternal optimist. So when it comes to business, my something good is about people. I was fortunate to start my career early on with the Florida Marlins, which put me into the Huizinga orbit of people, and I met.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, just met a tremendous group of people that I'm still in touch with today. So, when you go through challenging times like this, it's always important to have a trusted network, right? We always talk about reaching out and expanding your network, but
I love that.
You always have to have this base. And for me, I've had a number of people, and I'll list them but Dean Jordan and Christopher Dean and Mark Geddes and guys like that I've worked with for 20 plus years.
Man.
But when you have that kind of trusted base, it really helps you get through it. I mean, just to give you one story, we're going through a pandemic and all of the issues going on with with race equality and all those things in the news. I mean, Mark and I going back, we signed the first company we started. Convision and Collegiate Images, we had a term sheet signed in August of 2001 for $4 million with a VC. I think 3 weeks later, 9/11 happened and the market's
bye.
So we've navigated. I mean, you've had to navigate things. Again, this isn't necessarily about what's going on in the world. Just from a business perspective, you've had to navigate, a lot of different situations. So having that trusted base is really important. On a day-to-day basis, we have 210 people at Webonise. When this first happened, we had a Zoom call, which I know you're big on Zoom. If you haven't done a Zoom call with 200 people where everybody looks like a postage stamp, you really haven't lived.
Wow.
But I explained, this was right when it happened, and I said that the most important thing that we can do is number one, as a company, is to prioritize our people, and that's what we've done. So we haven't had to make any adjustments. We haven't had to do anything. We've really tried to focus on our people and then let them take care of our customers. And the main message there was our job is to provide value and to be there for our customers. And anybody can be there, when things are going well. But we, the people that build those long-term relationships answer the bell when there are challenges. So I made sure just to reiterate to all of our team that whatever our customers needed above and beyond the scope of what an agreement says, that we needed to be there. So my something good is really always about the people and about. I've tried to use these last few weeks to
look at my shirt, man.
See, it's like we planned it.
Right.
That's what happens when you go back this many years.
Oh.
But really, that's been our focus, and I've been trying to reach out and reconnect, and I get to wake up every morning with you and Mark, which is great. The dog and I are in the office in the house here.
That's
about
awesome.
7 a.m. We've got I'm on the phone with my partner in India, and kind of get going from there. So and then I guess my other something good is I got to watch my 10-year-old play baseball this weekend. So I was back
real baseball, like playing physically.
Oh, yeah,
that's awesome.
Real baseball. I was back in my happy place. I mean, it's funny when you and I first met each other. I'd have hobbies. I'd go out golfing. We'd go out fishing.
Right.
Then I had kids, and now I'm either doing something with their sports or working. That's pretty much.
God bless, man. So I'm really glad that you went with the network concept, because I've said this in all of my speeches and all of my trainings. Your network equals your net worth. And for those, and I just got off the phone with somebody this morning, and the conversation we had was they completely re-engineered their business based on reaching out to the people they knew, figuring out what people needed, pivoting to solve that new solution. So, as a guy, and you and I are the absolute perfect example of, we could go pretty good stretches without talking to each other. And
Yep.
then all of a sudden, zoom in, pick up right where our conversations clearly over the last couple of months, and when we did some work for your company, we're all based on, hey, we're friends, how can I help? And if
Absolutely.
you can have those kind of dialogues. So talk to me about how rich your network is, because I mean, you kind of glanced over Heisinger. I mean, God rest his soul. He had an unbelievable organization that led you to do some cool things with film. So why don't you share some of that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, when people talk about networks, and I mean, LinkedIn has made, I mean, you do a great job with your course, and I've actually, I came down, I was down in business and got to
Oh,
sit
you saw
in.
the live one, yeah, right,
I got to see, the in-person show.
right.
And I've recommended it to a number of people. So LinkedIn's made it a lot easier, but old school. And I don't really, I hate to use that term old school, because I still think it's the most effective way today is to reach out, get in touch with people. I think as business people and as salespeople, you tell yourself stories. Why a person doesn't want to talk to me. Why, I'm going to get his assistant. I'm never going to get that meeting. I'm never going to be able to get in front of that guy. That guy is so successful, or whatever the case is that you're telling yourself. I think I've shared this story in the past with you, but when Mark and I first started Collegiate Images and Convision, our first board meeting was Ross Levinson, who's
Wow.
had a number of starts, and Jerry Geddes, his uncle, was the COO of Blockbuster at the time. And so we go into our first board meeting. It's 7 or 8 o'clock at night, because we don't know how to schedule board meetings on time. And we're telling them we came off a trip into California, and Mark and I had full passes. We're walking around the Fox lot for several meetings with people at Fox Sports and Fox. We met with a C-level executive at Intel. We met with several Silicon Valley VCs, and so we're just updating them on our meetings, and and they both look at us, and we're getting kind of like a quizzical look, and I'm thinking, did we do something wrong? And Jerry Geddes says, the greatest thing about you two is you're too stupid to know what meetings you're not supposed to get. And
You know what? That's a really cool line. That's a really cool line.
It's a great line. I mean, that trip actually gave me some kind of foundational things for how I've worked the last 2 decades. But that was one of them. And it really, first of all, they must have known we were getting some of these meetings, because we were leveraging their names all over town, like they were handing out their business cards. But the other thing is, we're in pitching one of the venture capital groups. And Getty, so you get the two of us in a room wound up, and we're selling. And then I'll leave the names off, so I don't implicate the guys, because I'm actually connected with them. But the boss of on their side looks over at his team, and he says, "Okay, you want to give them our introduction?" So they start with we're a $2 billion fund, and these are the kind of companies we're looking for. And it's completely monotone. And the guy stops him 3 sentences in, and he bangs on the desk, and he goes, "Damn it, man, sell with conviction. Did you just hear these two?" So those are 2 of the things for me that have always stuck out. Is number one, don't be afraid to reach out to people, to feel that you have value to give, right? And that there's a reason for that you're not just asking for meetings to ask for meetings. Like you mentioned, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of very successful people. And the reason that those relationships last is that I don't take advantage of it. I don't call just to say, if I know somebody in an influential position, I don't call for 2 tickets to a Tuesday night, game, or something like that, right? I'm trying to bring them value. I don't call just for favors. So bring value to the conversation. And then the other part is, when you do get in front of somebody, believe in yourself and have that conviction. Because I'm telling you, Mark and I were pitching. This is probably a top 5 or 8 fund in the world at the time. And again, we didn't know any better. And here's our little startup.
Which you're sometimes better off not knowing. So
That's
I think
exactly right.
that line was so well taken. It's interesting because both of us share a sports pedigree. We've been in and around the business, and we know the people who are always asking, never want to pay, won't take no for an answer. Well, I was speaking in Dallas, and it turned out that Dallas was playing Philadelphia on like a Sunday night, and I was like, holy shit, I'll just stay the weekend and I'll reach out to people I know to get tickets to that game. Well, little did I know that tickets to that game were like really hard to find. And I reached out to one of our friends. Do you know Charlie Toronto? I don't know if you know Charlie. So anyway, Charlie, I reached out to him. He was an advisor to Jerry Jones. He's an unbelievable guy. Used to own Genesco Sports. And when I called him, he said, it was like dead silence. And he goes, that's not the favor you want to ask me. He goes, I'll do anything for you. And he goes, that's not the answer. So that,
and it's the value in your network, right? It's knowing how to utilize the network. And then conversely, it's knowing when people need help, right? When this thing all started, I think I reached out to you and just said, look, if you need anything, if there's anything I can do, right? Let's just bounce ideas off. I know you're working with Ben and you have a lot of things. And by the way, congratulations on your announcement this morning.
That's good stuff happening, man. We're very blessed. It's all my son.
I always reinvigorated. Gamify Noodleberg. If we can just gamify you,
Did you download the game?
Not yet.
Okay.
I just saw it this morning, so I'll definitely do it.
Neat, man.
But no, that's a great story. That's exactly my point. Is you have to know when what value you're asking for. I mean, it's like a genie with three wishes, right? Like if you have an influential network, I mean, is the wish you want to ask for, a tricycle, right? I mean, just what's going to get you further faster? And I mean, those are really the and that's really been the story of my career. That's how I met Getty. So I'm graduating from Florida. I played baseball at University of Tampa. I had, I don't know, I don't want to oversell it, but probably 10 rejection letters from the Florida Marlins. So I showed up at the office, and Mark happened to be one of the guys who signed one of the rejection letters. And I showed up and introduced myself and worked my way into an internship. And my fellow intern at that year, the first year of the Marlins, was Michael Kelly, who's now who's a brilliant guy. He's the athletic director at the University of South Florida.
I did not know this story, man. That is unbelievable.
So I basically just showed up, and they say 80% of life is just showing up. I literally showed up. Right. So it's like the guy who got a rejection letter and just shows up at a desk. That's the equivalent of how I started my career.
Fascinating, because I think you bring up the time we spend together is always very energetic, always enlightening. There's always validation and takeaways. And so one of the things we do, and people need to be reminded, is to do this all the time. But you bring up such a valid point for people as a takeaway. If you don't believe you belong there, you don't.
I saw in one of your tell me something good. Somebody was talking about luck, and the phrase that I've heard about luck, and I've heard about it, through my playing days, is luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right? So my entire career, when you start with something, people consider you lucky to get in the door. Oh, you're lucky to be working for this team. You're lucky to be, I consider myself lucky and enormously grateful. I get to work with a team of 210 super talented people that run a technology company, right? That we're a software development company. We do web and mobile applications. We have a MarTech practice, robotic process automation practice, which is doing really innovative things for 500 companies. We're doing a ton with e-commerce, and I worked all weekend on a deal that could grow that area. But I consider myself lucky, but I always think that a lot of that is that if you don't prepare, when that door opens, you fall flat on your face. Had I showed up that day at the Marlins and not been completely prepared to do, I studied everything that I thought I needed to do in that job for weeks before I walked in that door. And then I found out that studying was probably about 20% of what I actually needed to do, but it was enough for me to get started. And the people who, want to push their way in the door, on LinkedIn, I get a lot of people who reach out, and I'm glad to talk to anybody. But the people who start with, just a blank slate. It's hard to help anybody who starts with a blank slate, right?
Yeah.
Give me,
knowing, right. What do you want?
give me something to work with, and I'll tell you if I can help you. And if I can't tell you if I can't help you, I can get you in touch with, somebody who can. Right?
It shows how much we're aligned in a lot of the dialogues I have with people who, even when we're deep down the road about helping them, I always leave them with, hey, if you had a genie bottle, what's the one thing you really want to happen? What's the outcome? What's the, because generally without that answer, we're probably going to have an unsuccessful engagement. I need to know what's really keeping you up at night in order for me to make sure that that gets handled. And to your point, so many people don't know. So what do you want in life? What do you want to be? I don't know. Just, gonna let the river take me the way it takes me.
You had Eddie on one of your, tell me, Eddie Carboni on one of the.
Sure, he's awesome. He's the funniest guy in golf, man.
He is. And he has more nicknames for me. I've had pretty good nicknames. He has more nicknames for me than anybody. But it's funny, when Eddie took the job, I had been on kind of looking at that event as just an independent consultant, and I was already kind of morphing a little over into the technology side. And and so Eddie asked me what I thought of the event, and I said it's great for fathers and sons, except the sons are 70. I said I mean, you can ask me that. So I said, what does Ford want? Because Ford was the title sponsor, and we talked about it a little bit. So we finally sat down with Ford and said, what do you want? And they said, we want to be one of the top whatever events, top 5 events, top 10 events on the tour. What's it going to take? And they were willing to do what it took. And so Eddie said to help run the business side. He went out and got a field that was second to none. Phil and Tiger and Vijay Singh, and basically I think it was 18.
Oh, you're talking about the Doral days.
The Doral, yeah, the Tiger.
Oh man, those fun events. Holy cow, I get chills. Those were such great events.
But it all came about because you asked the client what they needed, right? What do you want out of this event for it to be successful for you? And then we'll tell you what it's going to take. And then you put it together. So I think this concept that we're talking about, right, of just, you've got to ask what are the goals, and then figure out the tactics from there.
I mean, your point about that tournament, that in my mind was the first event that took high-end hospitality to this is what's possible. They had private chalets and chefs cooking and stuff. It was great. It was awesome.
And everybody got something out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got something out, the sponsors got something out, and then Tiger and Phil went down to the wire.
So you and I could talk all day long, which I hope that, and we continue the dialogue. But for the sake of our audience, in our last minute or so, what do you want to leave? What's your lasting take? What's the good that comes out of COVID, that comes out of this, crap that's going on in our world? Give me your final, this is my, do this good.
I mean, I think it's not necessarily, it's more of just a mindset than it is just, something for you to go do. But when this all happened, on that call I mentioned with 200 people, I said to our team, we're going to come out of this stronger than we went into it. And, and we've been working towards that. So that wasn't just a commitment, right? We're setting a goal that we want to come out of this stronger as a company, whether that means, having a growth mindset so people are better educated in things. You're using this time to learn new programming languages. We're adding staff. We're doing whatever we need to do to be better. You're working on different customer relationships. And then also we're looking at different business areas to grow in, right? So I would suggest to anybody when you look at this kind of challenging time, would be to figure out what do you need to do to come out of it better. I mean, I think too many people take these opportunities to say, I've got to tread water. If I can stay fairly close to where I was before, I'm going to come out of this ahead. And I think that's a lot of companies do that. And in fairness, that might be what their business dictates. But I also think it's a mindset. And if you say, I'm going to come out of this better, stronger for it, and that may not all be financial. That may be,
I love that.
You've used your time to get yourself become better educated, to build your network, to spend time on yourself. For me, I've been able to work out of the house, so it means a little less time in cars and things like that. So I've been able to be around, our three boys a little bit more. So whatever that is, but come out of this better, and sit down, put it on paper, and hold yourself accountable for what that looks like, right? If you set it as this big goal and then you don't follow through with actions, it doesn't matter.
You are a champ. I am thrilled that you are in my life and there for us to do good stuff together. So thank you for spending some time this afternoon with us. I can't wait for people to hear more about you. I'll make sure that they know how to get in touch with you. So any of the services that you provide, people can connect with you. Thank you for telling me something good, Rob Katz.
Absolutely, Steve. See you at 8 a.m.
Yes, sir.